Welcome to our lecture on the classifications of hormones. This lecture will basically focus on the classifications of hormones based on its chemical structure. For this lecture, we are going to identify the different classes of hormones based on its chemical nature. We are also going to enumerate the different examples of each of the classes of hormones. And lastly, we are also going to identify some salient features of the different classes of hormones. The slides to follow will discuss the different classes of hormones based on its chemical structure. The first classification of hormones based on its chemical nature are the amines. The amines are derivatives of the amino acids, tyrosine, and tryptophan. So examples of the amine hormones are the catecholamines, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. The diagram shows the chemical structure of the epinephrine, showing the amino group. So this diagram shows the biosynthesis of the hormones, dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine. So they are also known as catecholamines. So the hormone or the neurotransmitter norepinephrine is synthesized in neurons starting with the amino acid tyrosine. The tyrosine is obtained from the diet, and it can also be synthesized from another amino acid, the phenylalanine. So tyrosine is converted to dihydrophenylalanine or the DOPA by the enzyme tyrosine hydroxylase. The DOPA is converted to dopamine in the cytoplasm through the action of the DOPA decarboxylase. Further, the dopamine is converted to norepinephrine by the enzyme dopamine beta hydroxylase. In the adrenal medulla and a few brain regions, the norepinephrine is converted to epinephrine by the enzyme phenylethanolamine and methyltransferase. The biosynthesis of the catecholamines is summarized in this figure. So from the previous diagram, we have seen that epinephrine or adrenaline is derived from norepinephrine. The process of the conversion from norepinephrine and epinephrine involves the action of the hormone, or rather the enzyme, phenylethanolamine methyltransferase, which transfers a methyl group to the epinephrine. So again, they are closely related to each other. They only differ in the presence of the methyl group on the nitrogen side chain of this compound. So in both substances, the amine group, so we have here the amine group of norepinephrine, and we also have here the amine group of the epinephrine. So both the amino group are attached to a catechol group. So this figure here represents the catechol group, which is a benzene ring with two hydroxyl groups. This structure, the catechol group, is unique among catecholamines and epinephrine, norepinephrine, and the dopamine. The next classification of hormones based on its chemical structure are the iodinated amino acids. From the name itself, these hormones contain iodine as well as the amino acids. Example are the thyroid hormones. They are derivatives of the amino acid tyrosine bound covalently to iodine. So the two principal thyroid hormones from the thyroid gland are thyroxine, also known as T4 or L-tetraiodothyronine, and we also have the triiodothyronine, T3, or the L3,5,3' triiodothyronine. So these numbers here represents the attachment or the location of the iodo groups of the hormones. So for example, now this is the chemical structure of iodine, and the iodo groups are attached or are located at the 3, 5, 3' and 5' position. Another major classification of hormones based on its chemical structure are the peptide hormones. So basically, when we say peptide hormones, these are these are hormones that consist of short chains of amino acids. So what are examples of peptide hormones? So basically in the hypothalamus, we have the examples of the hormones that are synthesized in the hypothalamus are the oxytocin, vasopressin, and the thyroid releasing hormone. We also have the hormones from the AP, anterior pituitary, the prolactin, and the hormones from the thyroid gland, the calcitonin, and from the parathyroid, the parathormone or the parathyroid hormone or the PTH. The figure shows the amino acid sequences of the neuropeptide, the oxytocin, and the vasopressin. So again, both of these are synthesized in the hypothalamus and released in the posterior pituitary. Again, they are classified as peptide hormones because they are composed of, or their chemical structure consists of a short chain of amino acids. So this is now the amino acid sequences of oxytocin, and we also have here the amino acid sequence of the hormone vasopressin. This diagram shows another representation of the chemical structures of the neuropeptides oxytocin and the vasopressin or the antidiuretic hormone. So for the antidiuretic hormone or the vasopressin, so when we are going to examine its chemical structure, it is composed of 9 amino acid structure sequence. So this is again classified as a peptide-based hormone because it is composed of a short chain of amino acids. It is considered to be hydrophilic, meaning it is water-loving or fat-fearing. It is not lipid-soluble, so it will not go into the cell readily. It binds with the receptor on the cell surface. The 6 of the amino acids form a ring structure as seen in this figure. So we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 amino acids forming a ring structure, and this is joined by the disulfide bonds. Another major classification of hormones that is closely related to the peptide hormones are the protein hormones. So when we say protein hormones, these are peptides composed of numerous amino acids, and they can also be defined as long chains of linked amino acids. So from the previous discussion, we defined peptides as short chains of linked amino acids. For proteins, they are referred to as long chains of linked amino acids. So what are examples of protein hormones? So examples of these hormones are the hormones that are produced from the pancreas, the insulin and glucagon, and we also have the hormone from the anterior pituitary, the growth hormone. The diagram shows the primary structure of the human preproinsulin. So again, the insulin is an example of a protein hormone. This diagram shows the primary structure of the human insulin as illustrated by Harfinest and Craig in the year 1952. Again, the human insulin or the insulin itself is a classic example of a protein hormone. The human insulin consists of 51 amino acids that is divided into 2 chains. So we have these 2 chains are commonly labeled as A and B. This represents the chain A, and we have here the chain B. The chain A, or the first chain, consists of 21 amino acids, and for the chain B, there are 30 amino acids. The chains are linked by 3 disulfide bridges, 2 forming interchain cysteines. So we have here the first disulfide bridge, or the first now interchain disulfide bridge between 2 cysteines A and B, from the chain A and B. So we have here the disulfide bridge forming from A7 and B7. We also have another interchain disulfide bridge between 2 cysteines at A20 and B19. One forms an intra-chain cysteine at A6 and A11. Another example of a protein hormone is the growth hormone. So this diagram shows the primary structure of the human growth hormone and its isoforms. The human growth hormone is a polypeptide that consists of 191 amino acids. Another class of hormones are the glycoproteins. So when we say glycoproteins, these are hormones that are made up of a complex protein having a carbohydrate side chains. So what are examples of glycoprotein hormones? So examples of this are luteinizing hormone or the LH, the follicle stimulating hormone or the FSH, the thyroid stimulating hormone or the TSH, as well as the human chorionic gonadotropin. So these three, LH, FSH, and TSH, are produced now from the anterior pituitary. In terms of its structure, the glycoprotein hormones contain two subunits. We have the alpha and the beta subunit. The alpha subunit is considered to be common among all the glycoprotein hormones, and the beta subunit is considered to be distinct. So this figure here represents the chemical structure of the thyroid stimulating hormone or the TSH, luteinizing hormone, human chorionic gonadotropin, and the FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. So as you can see here, this represents the alpha subunit. So in terms of its structure, so it is uniform in all the hormones, the glycoprotein hormones, and they only differ in terms of the structure of their beta subunit. Another major class of hormones based on chemical nature are the steroid hormones. The steroid hormones are derivatives of cholesterol and include products of the adrenal cortex, ovaries, and the testes, as well as the related molecule vitamin D. So the diagram shows the steroid hormones, estradiol and testosterone. And as you can see here, now this is the structure of estradiol, and we also have here the structure of testosterone, and they are derived from cholesterol. So they have a similar structure to their precursor cholesterol. So the steroid hormones are considered to be nonpolar, meaning that they are lipid soluble. They are able to pass through the phospholipid membrane of the cell and enter the cytoplasm. So this slide shows the structure of the steroid hormones. So again, they are considered to be lipophilic or lipid soluble molecules. So all steroids can be distinguished by the presence of the cyclopentanoperhydrophenanthrin structure, as shown in this figure. So this is the structure that distinguishes the steroid hormones from other types of hormones. We have here the structure of the cholesterol, and as we all know, the cholesterol serves as the parental precursor of the steroid hormones. So these are the major classes of the steroid hormones. So we have the progestins. Of course, we also have the hormone progesterone. We also have the glucocorticoids and the mineralocorticoids. Again, they are derived from the adrenal cortex. We also have the androgens, the estrogen, and the vitamin D. So this diagram shows the biosynthetic pathway of the production of the steroid hormones. And as you can see here, the progestins are considered to be the biosynthetic precursors of all other steroid hormones, the glucocorticoids, androgens, estrogens, and the mineralocorticoids. Another major classification of hormones based on its chemical structure are the fatty acid derivatives. So these fatty acid derivatives refer to the icosanoids. These are a large group of molecules that are derived from arachidonic acid. So this includes the prostaglandins, prostacyclins, leukotrienes, and the thromboxanes. So these hormones are rapidly inactivated by being metabolized and are typically active for only a few seconds. So this figure here represents the chemical structure of the icosanoids, no, prostaglandins, prostacyclin, leukotriene, and the thromboxanes. So this diagram shows the pathway of the biosynthesis of the icosanoids, now the prostanoids, the thromboxanes, and the leukotrienes, as well as the epoxy, no, icosanoic acids. So the icosanoids are derived now from the oxidation of the arachidonic acid. In terms of their function, of course, their most important role is they mediate inflammatory responses. So the biosynthesis of the icosanoids are activated by trauma or by cytokines, activating the phospholipase A2. The fatty acids are then cleaved by PLA2 or phospholipase A2 from cell membranes, and they are then oxygenated by the different families of enzymes to produce icosanoids. So these families of enzymes are the cyclooxygenase. Now the cyclooxygenases 1 and 2, it will produce the prostanoids. We also have the lipoxygenase pathway involving the lipoxygenase enzyme now producing these icosanoids. And we also have another pathway, the cytochrome P450 epoxygenase now producing these groups of icosanoids. For the most important icosanoids here are of course, the prostaglandins, the prostacyclin, as well as the thromboxanes.